Anything. We're just going to have fun. We're going to have fun.
Okay, perfect. And then let us get the show rolling. And I'm going to turn this over to Ariel, and you all can introduce yourselves and get us started. And thank you. Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you so much, Diane. Thank you all so much for joining. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces. Very impressed with how these faces are looking as well, given everything, I must say. I see a lot of lipstick, beautiful skin. I'm very impressed. This is the first time, by the way, I think I've worn earrings in 3 months. My ears feel really weird. And to see like a lot of familiar names as well. So thank you guys so much for joining. I'm Ariel. I lead PR and communications for Paul Hastings, where I just try to help people tell their stories. And I obviously have the very good fortune of working with a certain Meg Sullivan over here at Paul Hastings, and Tara Genta, who I see has joined us as well from Paul Hastings, and Melanie. So have some really great company here. Don't feel any pressure at all as a result. And I'm really excited to be here with Yvette today, and would love for Yvette if you could just give us a brief introduction to those who don't know you.
Sure, and Happy New Year, everyone. Feliz Año Nuevo. Like Ariel said, it's so good to see all of the faces. I remember a lot of you from a lot of the meetings that we've had in the past. I'm so honored that our beautiful Diane invited me to this chat. Diane never loses touch with me, and I thank her so much. I am the Vice President at AARP in Multicultural Leadership, who leads the entire Latino strategy nationwide for AARP. So I work with the entire organization to help them best connect with the Latino audiences, no matter what they're doing, especially now when we see all of these disparities. The role that I lead in multicultural leadership, along with our other VPs, is very important, and we are major consultants to the organizations. I was born and raised in New York City, daughter of immigrants from the Dominican Republic. So I'm first generation in my family to do a lot of things, to graduate college, to leave New York. I was the first cousin to leave New York and move to Chicago. And so in doing that, I've learned a lot. I'm a marketer by trade. I've been with AARP for 5 years. It's the first kind of like non-marketing role that I've had, but there is a lot of marketing, because there is a lot of communication, a lot of messaging to the Latino audience, both in English and in Spanish. That is a pleasure for me to lead. And all of the messaging that I lead, falls in the areas of health, wealth, and self, salud, dinero, y amor, just helping the 50 plus and their families to live better lives.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And I didn't know that you were from DR, so we're going to have to talk about that, because I'm going, hopefully, knock on some wood, ladies, for me in a couple of months, if all goes well. So thank you guys. So today what we thought we'd talk about is just a little bit about ringing in the new year. So we're going to have a discussion that focuses a little bit on what Yvette just talked about, health, wealth, and self in the new year. And we're really hoping that this will be a very interactive session, because it's the way to have the most interesting conversation, and because we all know so many of you so well, and think that what is particularly wonderful about Quorum is the members. So please chime in. I'm going to try to bug you a little bit along the way and prod, and I'm going to look at the chat, and please feel free to unmute yourself as well, because we're hoping, like I said, to hear from everybody. With that, I thought I'd do a little bit of setting the stage. So we'll talk about 2020, and we're going to talk about 2021. We're going to talk about how to ring the new year in a new way. We're going to talk about the outlook for 2021. We don't see a way to have this discussion without talking about social justice and going back to the office, Will I need a bra again? Basically, that's that discussion for you. And then also always critical at Quorum is talking about action. So we'll end this conversation and hopefully throughout this conversation also talk about how we can have an action-oriented 2021. To break things up and get us started a little bit, I thought we could talk a little bit about 2020. It was obviously a year like none other, a very challenging year, but also hopefully a year where you all learned a little bit more about yourselves. I thought I'd begin it with one or two of the memes with 2020 that I really enjoyed, and would invite you all, as I'm sharing this, to think about what your favorite memes were for 2020 and or what you've seen so far in 2021. I will tell you it's a year where 2021 is a year where I'm going to try to avoid social media more, but one of the benefits of social media is memes. So 2020 memes, I'm going to not even attempt to use the technology because I don't like it. That's one of my 2020 lessons. So I'm just going to share it with you vocally. One of my favorite 2020 memes was from a woman who shared that she's lived through 6 decades. 6 decades, she said. The 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2010, and March. Just love that. Like I just felt like that really, really summed it up. And then so far in 2021, like seriously, what 13 days? 13 days. Wow. One of my favorite that I've seen so far is I have finished the 7-day trial for 2021 and I'm not interested. Mm-mm. No, thank you. Please cancel that order. Let us find something new to subscribe to. Does anybody else have any that they'd like to share? I see some thinking. I see some thinking. Lynn, I feel like you have something. Yes,
No,
she
I've got
does.
one. So, and I think I've said this before. And hello, everyone. So great to see all the beautiful faces. And hello, Yvette. So great to hear from you. Anyway, that we'll look back on the 5 years. 5 years from now, we'll look back on 2020 as the year of great learning. So not so much the pain and the all that we went through, but all that we learned and the way that we learned how to pivot and how to move forward and thrive in such difficult circumstances. So that's my
Love that. Yeah, love that. Anybody else want to chime in?
Well, I was just going to add to that. This is Tara. That first of all, I wonder how many people are doing a dry January. I'm just saying. But on a more serious side,
I love Anne shaking her head. No.
yeah, my sister said she lasted about 4 days, or until January 6th. But more seriously, to pick up on what Lynn was saying, I also think 2020 will be seen as, and maybe this is also my hope, will be seen as the catalyst for incredible change, social, racial, social justice issues, and a rebalancing of what's important and where we should be focusing as a society. I think you see it I'm hopeful in the Biden administration. I say that not from a political standpoint, although yes, but from how he has approached his cabinet, his running mate, of course, Kamala Harris, his focus on climate change and diversity and racial equity and social justice, the way that corporate America, corporations have stepped forward during 2020 with the Black Lives Matter, and not everybody, and it's not solved. I don't mean that, but at least a catalyst for change really bootstrap us, hopefully, as a country and a governance, from a governance standpoint, to what is really important, rather than always looking at, generating money and your status, and really kind of hopefully level setting and to what's important and where we should be focusing our efforts. At least that's what I hope.
Yeah, no, I think love that notion of hope and change. So fingers crossed. I think that's another big thing in 2020, like doing this a lot. But no, great. So a lot of people talk also about new ways of bringing in the new year. We hear a lot about new year, new you. And we think that if there was ever a year to bring in the new year in a new way, probably is 2021. So we'd love to hear from Yvette first, a little bit about Yvette, how you're bringing in the new year in a new way, and what your advice is to all of us, what some of the things you are doing are.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me that I learned last year was self-care. Really understanding that we need to take care of ourselves. If we're not well, the family isn't well, the teams that you lead aren't well. So I think self-care is so big. I now listen to my iWatch. I don't know if you guys have it, and you see the little breathing icon. Do it. It works. It tells you your heartbeat. It tells you to just stop. Because in the middle of all the madness, because I feel that I've worked so much harder working from home during the pandemic than being in the office, between Zoom and Teams and Blue Jeans and whatever you name, whatever platform, it's just been a lot. But we can't forget about myself. Someone also turned me on to an app called Headspace. You do have to pay for it, but there is like a 17-day free trial. It is incredible. Today I did it, and I even wrote it down. There's a meditation tab that I did. There's life cycles. There's a wake up. There's a mindful moment. So I feel that I learned that I just needed to take a chill moment and just breathe, just breathe. Another thing, that 2020 taught us, because it was a year of many pandemics, right? It wasn't just coronavirus, but we know the social injustice and so many things that happen out there, is that I feel that this year we can take a look to kind of reflect on what happened in 2020 and make this like the year of purpose, right? We need to discover our purpose. Why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? What were we doing in that moment when the pandemic hit? The magic word of 2020 was pivot. How did we pivot? But it's not just how did we pivot, but what did the pivot teach us? What came out from there, So it's taking the reflection on 2020, taking steps to make it better, whether it be, at work. What can you do to make it easier for you, to make it easier for your team? Remembering that self-care. I think last year was also a year of creativity. Everything that was in person pivoted to digital. And we didn't know how we were going to do it, at least at AARP, and we did it. And, yesterday I saw that we surpassed all of our goals. Everybody did well. Advocacy numbers, which is like lives impacted, were right on, and we didn't know how we were going to do it. So it's like, taking that minute, just stopping, replanning, and knowing that if you did whatever you accomplished in the year of a pandemic, you have a purpose. Discover it, grow with it, take it and run with it, and see what other challenges this year come up that you can do. But never forget 2020 and all of the pandemics that came with it, and how you, your teams, your loved ones all came out of it.
Love that. Also, just to share in case folks didn't see, June shared that Headspace is on Netflix too. So thanks for sharing.
Yes,
that, June.
It is.
I also, if anybody is interested in meditation, I can share, there are a bunch of free resources right now. that I'd be happy to share. And also, this is so random, but like a year or so ago, I actually trained to become a meditation facilitator. And I just recently started doing a class on Fridays at 1 Eastern. So if anybody's interested, they can join that. It's free, except that I'm doing it to help raise money. So if you feel like it, you can donate to my
Yep.
charity.
Send us that information. I'd love to be a part of that. I've really learned to understand my breathing and just taking that quiet moment. I'd love to be a part of that.
Awesome. Awesome. So I swear we didn't like set this up, ladies. I really swear. Okay. But in any case, I wanted to, on that note, even though I am somebody that believes in meditation and believe in self-care, just to pick up that self-care thing, I actually have been finding it harder than ever before to take care of myself. There was something about, I feel like, the working from home that gets me sort of stuck on my big old butt all day, not moving, not doing all the things that I know are good for you. Do you, and does anybody else like feel like, again, chime in, like have suggestions on how we can actually make sure to take care of ourselves?
I can
How
speak
do
up
we-
on something I just started. And I think Gertrudis does this actually from talking last year with her. But it's called the fake commute or fake commuting. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal and others about just replicating that what you did when you did commute, get up, walk to the train, get your coffee, and then walk back, in the morning. And I haven't done it both times of the day, but I've done it at least once a day. I also work out on the Peloton, but that's not enough because what about all the walking I used to do? That's gone. So I must say it has helped me kind of feel like I'm normal again. I just started this week. So highly, highly recommend that.
Yeah, this is Gertrudis. I didn't know it had a name. So yeah, I shared with Lynn and Claire and Amy that as part of keeping myself sane and actually make myself leave my apartment, I would just take a half an hour walk at the end of the workday. Usually I exercise in the morning, either in the stationary bike or I go out running, but usually it's very dark. So at the end of the day, well, not so much now, but before winter, when there was still light, then it was a nice change of scenery and definitely kept me sane because I was able to actually go outside and walk. And it gave that break also when I wanted to do something that is not my 9 to 5 work related. I had that transition buffer, if you will.
I love that idea. That's a great idea. And
Another thing too is walking meetings when it's not too cold. I'm in Chicago now. I'm not in DC currently because I live between the two places, but I do walking meetings, right? So I put in my earbuds and I schedule meetings and I walk. It's a little brisk, but it's okay because it keeps me going. And then I have my Peloton in Chicago, but we have in our condo here, we have a small treadmill. So what I'm doing is my lunchtime, I'm on that treadmill.
that's good.
And so it just breaks up the day. And my husband bought me a standing desk. I almost took this session standing, which helps so much. And it helps you from not having your butt hurt so much from sitting all day. So we got this one at Office Depot. If you can get yourself a standing desk, let me tell you, it's amazing. I had one on work. And I think the thing is, like you mentioned, is the walking, the movement, the not sitting down, because I think the sitting down was depressing me. And so I just needed to get up. And when your desk is up, I pace a little bit. If I'm not on camera, so they don't think I'm nuts, but I pace a little bit, right? Just so that I'm just not standing there and I get my circulation going. But I'll tell you, the walking meetings I love. And if it's not too cold where you are, try to schedule them because they work.
Yeah, no, I love those suggestions. And thank you, Lynn, who shared the article on the fake commute for all of us to see there as well. I will tell you too that I am too cheap to buy a standing office desk. But I just put like an ottoman on my desk sometimes, and that has done the trick too. And it's free. Which so just for anyone else who's feeling frugal, just thought I'd share that little tip as well. And one other tip, puppies. I just got one. They are a great way to get your butt out of the house. Wow. Wouldn't recommend that to everyone, but yeah, they definitely have forced me to get up off my butt. So this sort of connects nicely to just with talking a lot about self-care, health, wealth, being frugal, like I am, taking how hard it is to take care of ourselves. What are some of your advice? What's some of your advice again, Yvette, and outlook for what you're expecting with health, wealth, and self, both like from personal vantage point and also from your work at AARP?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think health, we mentioned the self-care. I also believe in diet. I'm a lactose intolerant pescatarian, so my diet is very limited. But I will tell you, it's 80% what you eat and 20% of your workout. And so I am very intentional about my meals, about drinking water. I get bored of water, so I put like hibiscus tea in my water. I put in mint leaves, I put in cucumbers sometimes, I put in berries. So making sure that you're hydrated, because a lot of times you think you're hungry and you're not hungry, it's that you're thirsty. Your body needs hydration. So I'm really focused on my diet. Another thing is, in the beginning, I think for 2 months, I never put on makeup. I didn't do my hair. So I have my yoga pants on, FYI, full transparency. But I try to put on a cute little top and put in the earrings. I felt that for my health and for my mental well-being, I needed, the way I went to work, I wanted to do the same thing, almost like what Lynn was saying with the commute. So I always try, I don't usually, I'm not this done up, but I wanted to look pretty for you ladies. But I put on my lipstick. Look, I have a bunch of lipsticks right by me here. So I put on my little lipstick, even if it's not that. I tussle my hair. Sometimes I have it curly. I feel that helps you as a person. In terms of wealth, and health, I mean, at AARP, we talk about all of that. We've been really following the CDC, making sure that our websites have all of the information. So digital, social, mobily, all the information on the CDC, driving people to the right websites in English and in Spanish and in Chinese. So it's really, really proud work. We're constantly on TV, doing satellite media tours, talking with the media, talking with journalists, feeding content, because we're so content rich. So health is very important, but if people don't have that information, then it doesn't make sense to have it. In terms of wealth, I mean, if we don't see what happened to many people when this pandemic hit, the unemployment, the people going hungry, the people living day to day, paycheck to paycheck. So really focusing on that wealth side, right? Thinking ahead, not living in the moment. Financial planning. If you don't have a financial planner, now's the time to do it. And making sure that you have that right savings, right? So that's one thing that AARP does with a lot of different tools, money map. And we try to make sure that we have those on the website, that we're also out there talking about it, because with all of the disparities, the impact on finance and health and wealth has just been astronomical. And then self, AARP is a big part of the Global Council for Brain Health. And so we talk a lot about brain health. What do you need to do? So a lot of it is diet, a lot of it is exercise, a lot of it is doing gaming and doing different things and challenging yourself and picking up an instrument, learning a language, doing different things. So really making sure that you are aware of the things that you need to do. But all of the things that I mentioned isn't only for you, but it's also for your loved ones, especially your elderly family members. I have a mom who's in New York and I'm a long distance caregiver. I cannot tell you how difficult it is to talk to her about health, wealth, and self, because she won't listen. She's very stubborn, stuck in her ways, and it's very hard. So whatever we can also do to not only pick up these good habits, but to share it, also share it with the neighbors. Somebody may have an elderly neighbor next door who doesn't have anyone to talk to. That's another thing that we talk about, because isolation is a real thing. And now with COVID and the social distancing, it's become even more prevalent. So making sure that you're also checking in on others, even if it's socially distant, sending an email, checking in. But without your health, wealth, and self, your salud, dinero y amor, we have nothing. And so that's something that I preach, that I talk to, and I make sure that every time I speak, no matter where I'm at, I talk about it, because without that, we do not have healthy, fulfilling lives.
No, that's agreed. Also we had some chats that there are folks that are really embracing the biz leisure trend, and it sounds like June has an article that maybe we'll share after the fact. So thank you so much, June. Did anyone else want to pipe in on outlook for 2021 as it relates to anything or wealth and self? Again, we're getting so many great comments from this group and so many helpful suggestions.
What I'd like to, if I can, just kind of echo what Yvette said in terms of dressing up now and fluffing your hair.
Tara.
What's that?
What a shocker, Tara.
Well, most people,
yeah.
most people just see
Tell everyone, make sure that everyone knows what you do.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So I'm Dara Lamb, and it's great to be here with everybody. And thanks so much for inviting me to be part of this group. But I basically, I'm the country's sort of, I'm getting to the point where I might be calling myself the eminence grise of custom clothing, because I've been doing it for women for 35 years. But in the last, well, actually, I've been speaking a lot on the impact of clothing on the brain for really the last 10 years and been researching the neurological impacts of it. So more than just being a clothier, I mean, I think I design pretty clothes and they're fun to wear, but actually what really propelled me into the business was the impact of clothing on the self. And that's what changed my life early on. That's what got me into the business and changed my life from being an engineer with an art background to being a clothing designer. But also kind of modeling this business to be a custom business so I could really impact people's lives by making sure their clothing was truly authentic to them and truly reflected not just who they are today, but where they were going. That comes back to the point that really Yvette was making, which is, and by the way, it doesn't matter. I saw a lot of the chats about athleisure, which is another choice. And so the biggest thing really that one has to recognize is that whatever you just choose to wear, that clothing is going to message you all day long. So what really matters at the end of the day is your intention. And if your intention is, oh, I'm feeling like I really need to be comfortable today, no matter what happens, athleisure would be the, business athleisure would be the right choice. If you're feeling like, oh, I want to remind myself about my professional self and where I'm going and what's going to happen after the pandemic, and there's a need for both, then if you dress that way, then what will happen is whatever you're wearing will message that to you all day long. It's not necessarily only what it messages to the external world, which is usually what we're all taught about. We're not taught about actually the brain health part of this. To go back to what Yvette was saying, is that and one of the difficulties for women is that oftentimes what they want to do, for many, many reasons that I go into in like an online class, it's too much to talk about here, but for many, many reasons, what they wear and what they want to do and be and say about themselves is at conflict. So what happens is throughout the day, they may not be physically comfortable in their clothing, and they may not be emotionally, psychically grounded in their clothing, because who they are and what the clothing is are two different things. And I think this month, I was just writing a post on it, we're seeing that right in the controversy about what the two covers in Vogue on Kamala Harris. And because who she is in leadership is not the woman in tennis shoes. That is a part of her life, but that's not really the most important part of her life, especially now. That's the blue suit, facing front, seeing her eyes, reading her passion. And I thought it was very interesting that there was so much controversy over that. But, and the misread of the fashion industry saying, no, her authentic self was in sneakers, when most of us who have followed her career know that the suit is very authentic to her, very authentic and very, very responsive to who she is in her professional life. So I'm not saying there's not room for both. There's definitely room for athleisure. There's definitely room for a lot of other clothes, but my clothes. The most important thing is the intention that you approach your wardrobe with, and to remember that it's going to have a mental, emotional impact on you when you're wearing it. It's not just about how you want to influence others. So
yeah, no, that's really interesting. And I think the themes of sort of intention and authenticity are themes that are really important, not just for clothing, but going back to health, wealth, and self, which I wish I could say in Spanish beautifully, Yvette, but I dare not try. But you know, that they really relate to those concepts as well. And that, talking a little bit about authenticity, I thought maybe we could bridge to talk a little bit about social justice. And I know you're thinking, well, what does that have to do with authenticity? I wanted to share that, again, this year, obviously, we saw social justice this past last year. I'm sorry, I'm not committed to us having actually started 2021. I think it was Nicole, who's on the call, who said, like, we should actually just pick a different date sometime in the future as the unofficial beginning of 2021. I'm all for that, just saying. But in any case, so last year, we obviously saw social justice take center stage for our country and in many corporates as well. I wanted to share that for me, it was really uncomfortable. It was interesting for me as a communicator to deal with that discomfort and being afraid of saying the wrong thing and not knowing what was right to communicate and how to communicate. It felt like, again, and I'm being very authentic here and vulnerable, because as a professional communicator, you want to you want to feel like you're always comfortable. It was a year that I needed to reach out and ask more questions of other people, and even asking the questions felt uncomfortable. It's like, are people going to be angry with me just for asking the question, just for engaging in the conversation? So a year of a lot of discomfort. And I think right now what we're seeing is that there's the hope that obviously there's momentum with this social change and that we'll see that continue. I'm curious about what you think will happen, what we need to do both as women at work and corporates to help continue that momentum and deal maybe also with the authenticity, discomfort challenges as well.
I'll tell you, as an Afro-Latina woman, I was uncomfortable too. Very uncomfortable, because I'm kind of like stuck in two worlds. Yes, I'm Latina, but I'm also Black, right? And so a lot of the challenges that Latinos face and that my family members being dark faced are the same challenges that Black men mostly faced, right? And so, you know, having a conversation, having this duality was tough to begin with. But I think the biggest thing that our organization did, and the many others, because I've spoken to so many people and I've been on so many panels on this issue, is hosting courageous conversations. The first thing that our CEO, Joanne Jenkins, did, and she's an African-American woman, by the way, is she hosted a courageous conversation with every single employee in the organization. They went a step further. They also asked if people wanted to send in thoughts that didn't want to be part of the session, asking a question, if people wanted to record themselves. I mean, she really wanted to hear from everyone, no matter what level, no matter if they were in the States, if they were in the national office. So I felt that that was very authentic. She also gave a lot of stories about her Black children, and she does have a Black son. So it was very interesting to hear that type of conversation that, I'll be honest, I had never heard from Joanne. And then to hear from people that were white, you know, white men and white women talking about things that made them feel uncomfortable, Ariel, like you mentioned. I mean, it was, to me, it was just incredible. But I feel that that was the beginning, because there's so many things that are different, but so many things that unite us, and we have to get them out. I think that that authenticity and that space, safe space, that level, that platform is key. We've had subsequent courageous conversations. We've also had them with our business resource groups, all of them, from the LGBT one to the Latino to the African American to the Asian. There was also a lot of xenophobia that went on in the Asian community. And so just having the platforms to talk was very important. As AARP is nonpartisan, we really tried to take it to the social injustice. We brought it into the disparities that have always existed, right, in our nation, but the disparities that came on a little bit harder. And we saw more hunger. We saw people losing their homes and people unemployed and people with lack of access to healthcare. So many things that existed in the communities, but that came out more with all of this social injustice. And so those are the things that we're tackling at AARP through our foundation, through the on-the-ground communities that we work with, because we work with so many affiliates and advocacy organizations on the ground. Also with this social injustice, everything that's going on in the nursing homes, how we tackle that, to work with our elected officials. I mean, the death rate, I heard some numbers yesterday that blew my mind in a session that we had on how many people of color are dying in nursing homes, how many people that don't get to see their family members. And so all of these things are things that we're tackling in a nonpartisan way, but to really help. But I think the biggest thing is keeping everyone informed. Again, I mentioned how content and information for us is key. Also, conversations. You have to talk about it and have people let it out. We're all so different. If we were all the same, we wouldn't be on this earth. And so making sure that people have a point of view, that you hear them, that things are addressed. You can agree to disagree, but you can talk about it respectfully and at least provide information. Because I think having people informed who don't know enough about the social injustice, maybe they turned a blind eye, but maybe they really don't know. It's important. And I think that we have a responsibility to inform people and have two-way conversations.
No, that's great. Thank you so much for that. I think it's really helpful. So I'm going to jump to talking a little bit about action, and I'm going to skip talking about the office unless anybody has like a burning desire to do that. I will tell you too, just to clarify, I am wearing bras. They're just sports bras, all right? So we'll skip the bra conversation for now. Maybe Dara will give us some other advice at another time, but let's go to action instead of bras for the moment. So I think, again, like feeding off of the social justice topic, Yvette, it leads really very nicely into talking about what we should all be thinking about in terms of making an impact in 2021. And I do know, like, I sort of vacillate. Like, I go from feeling like, okay, 2021, this is going to be the year I'm going to do something really special, to feeling sort of defeated even 13 days. And I will share that, like, one of the things for me is that I just decided to join a charity board. And for those of you, I think many of you are probably doing similar work. I didn't realize until maybe a year or so ago that joining a charity board really just meant like shelling out a whole bunch of money. I learned that, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to shell out a whole bunch of money and help raise a whole bunch of money for a charity that I really care about, that is connected to how I want to make action, make an impact in the world. I'm curious what else you think we should be thinking about. What's the sort of ask that we want to be making of this group in terms of making an impact in 2020?
There are so many things, and I would start with that too, Ariel. The things on my mind are like selfless giving, social mission causes. I think every one of us, we're all very fortunate, all of us here, to be able to do something. The homelessness, the hunger. I don't know if you guys saw the food bank lines during the holidays. People losing their jobs who couldn't feed their families. People crying on the lines because they couldn't feed themselves. And so I've done a lot here, with the food banks in Chicago, giving money. I also give a lot of money and a lot of my time to, there's a Franciscan mission in New York, and they've always had a bread line. I've been giving money to that bread line forever. So I think we have to count our blessings and the fortune that we have and connect with different food banks. The homelessness that I've seen here in Chicago, because this is where I've been during the pandemic, it just blows my mind. And you have to be careful because there's a lot of crime too, so you can't just take out your wallet. So I wind up buying coffee and donuts if I'm walking to people that are asking me. So I think you're really looking at the causes for all of the things that are happening. And then I read somewhere and I wrote it down, and it was a quote that said, happiness is like a bank account. You withdraw from it what you deposit. So think about happiness and what brings you joy, and I think that if giving to others and taking on a cause, sitting on a board or organizing something within your group, if that doesn't bring you joy, I don't know what that can be. Just understanding, that our country, like right now, is healing because it's hurting in so many ways. And I think the way that we can take action is by doing something to be kind, right? To help others. And I just think that the kindness and the happiness and doing what brings you joy is important to us because we're the more fortunate ones who aren't on those food lines, who have access to healthcare. And so I just think it's time for us to just stop, reflect, and take on something else that can help others. I sit on a board. It's called the Friends of the American Latino Museum. And yeah, it's one that you have to give a lot of money to and a lot of time, but you know what? It's a cause that's near and dear to my heart. It's a group of very dedicated people that are lobbying to build a Smithsonian Latino Museum on the National Mall. And we just got the bill passed. I will tell you that has been one of the biggest and most fulfilling things because our history is important and it has to be told. So that's a cause that I took on amongst the Hunger One and a bunch of others. AARP, our foundation, had a meal pack. And although they didn't have it on the National Mall, I had plastered it all over for people to fill in boxes and put food in it and mail it. So just finding what you can do to help your brother or your sister. That's really what's on my mind.
No, and I that was so beautiful. And I think everybody really felt your passion. And you almost messed up my makeup that I put on. That was a little rude of you almost. How hard it was to do this for months because I haven't been taking your advice and I haven't been putting on makeup. So since we all are here together, I just thought two things. Like one is just if anybody else wants to share any advice on taking action, having impact, and or if anybody else wants to sort of use this opportunity to sort of share something that they want to make a commitment to, because sometimes the sharing can help make it happen. I know, sometimes that works more for me, or if anybody wants to sort of talk about anything else related that we can help with, this group can help with. All right, go ahead, Anne. Hi, Anne.
Hi. This is not as so fundamental as removing a subject as Yvette has just addressed, but I think it's very important in the professional sphere that a lot of younger people have struggled working from home. I do quite a lot of mentoring as a non-exec director. Part of my responsibilities with that company, but also as a volunteer through the PR Trade Association in London. And the people I mentor are quite senior, but they've all had an issue with supporting the more junior members of the team who report to them. And it's the junior members who are not working in their own house. They're probably in a flat share, or they've gone back to their parents, but they're not in such a well set up office environment as we can develop in our own home. Plus, they're not learning as a continual process because they can't put their head round the office door of someone and ask their opinion. If they want to ask their manager, they have to make an appointment to speak to them on the phone. It's all much more formal. The advice seems more difficult to get, and I think they are the ones who are struggling with motivation and probably even more so confidence. And I think that is something which people like us who've reached a stage in our career can really help with, because that's been my observation. I must have mentored about 8 or 9 people over this period, and it's been in common to all of them that they've worried about the more junior members of the team. So I think although mentoring is always very useful, I think at the moment it has that extra dimension.
Well, I love that, and I think that's so true.
Yeah, this is Gertrudis. I have a suggestion for Anne and everybody else. So that's something that I started to pilot with my team probably like maybe 2 months ago. So to try to emulate the stop by in the office, even though it's still formal. So what I did is I put 1 hour a week on my calendar. It's called Zoom stop by. And I open my Zoom. Everybody in my team has that in their calendar. It's not properly a meeting, it's so they know when it happens. And I stay with my Zoom open for 1 hour, and whomever stops by, stop by. Some weeks nobody comes, some weeks a few people come, and it can be for work-related stuff, for just to say hi. I would say more social aspect of things. And the feedback I have received so far from my team has been positive. They, even if they don't come for a couple of weeks, they say they, knowing that time is available and that they can use it in whichever shape or form gives them some relief, if you will. So that so far is what I have found, kind of like that middle point of the stop by in the office to ask a question or to say hi, and the scheduling time. Unfortunately, it's almost impossible to do it without the calendar, but I thought that was a good middle, and I wanted to share.
I love that idea, the Zoom by
Mm-hmm.
the office hours. It's a great idea.
I love that. I'm going to borrow that, Gertrudis.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
I'm
idea.
going to suggest that to some of the people I mentor. I think that's
In
very
some
good.
of the other teams in my organization, they would do like at the peer level. So each person has an hour or half an hour, different days of the week, open to the entire team, not only the groups that roll up to them. So for example, you could have, say, Tuesdays at 9 a.m. and then your peer will have Wednesdays at 9 a.m. and it's open to all your teams.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's great. Yeah. I think like one other thing I just have been finding is like, I don't know about you, like I just miss people. I mean, I just miss connecting. And so whether it's, if it's somebody junior or senior, wherever, like I just like, I'm so appreciative when somebody is like picking up the phone and calling me, like the gift of like a voice call is so immense these days. Like I'm actually so sad. I'm getting I really have goosebumps just talking about a phone call. And like imagine, because I think again we talked a lot about like what we can do with money. But there's so many like itty little bitty things that have made such a big difference to me during the pandemic. And that's just really interesting. So I just wanted to share that like we can all have like a huge impact by these sort of like micro acts of kindness too, and micro action. So with that, what else can Yvette answer for this group before we hand it over to the marvelous, I need to do it with an accent, Meg Sullivan. What else can Yvette answer for us? Lynn, are you trying to talk?
I'm not trying to talk, but I can always talk.
Oh, okay.
I can always talk. I want to say thank you to Yvette and to all, who contributed, because I'm taking notes as you talk, and it's so inspiring. These groups are always so inspiring for me. And I do want to brag. I'm proud of myself for actually taking the step toward a call to action. So, I've said I was going to do it, and I finally did. So I am volunteering for my local town's racial equity task force, which was formed after the events with George Floyd. And through that, I've become more woke than I ever have been in my entire life. And I think that is because of my generation. Hold your head down, do the job, fit in, do everything you can do to fit in. Don't be your authentic self, fit in, straighten your hair, wear the clothes they wear, talk talk how they talk, do what they do the same activities, ski, whatever it is. My family's been here since the late 1600s. We've been around, we were Americans, right? And I have African roots. I have so many different connections. So I'm speaking with a lot of passion. I hope I don't cry. But Yvette, you started this, so. My call to action is being myself and reaching out and speaking from my heart. I am an educated woman, I'm passionate, but I am Black and I am an American, and I have that intersectionality of being a female and a person of color. And that puts me in a very serious situation at times. So I'm taking advantage of that, and I'm speaking up for myself, for my culture, for my race. I have 2 boys who are Black, obviously, and Latino. So I've got it going from all ends. This is my moment, and it's my moment for the next 10 years, for the next 20 years. It's not just one and done. So I've taken it seriously, and I think it's this group that always helps me step up. So thank you, Quorum.
That's wonderful. Lynn, where do you live?
I live in Westchester County.
Oh, Westchester. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in Westchester too, so let's talk offline, Lynn.
Let's have coffee.
Yes.
Yeah.
So no, that was beautiful. Anyone, I mean, again, if somebody wants to, I don't think that was bragging. I think that was inspiring others. Yes. So does anyone else want to inspire others? All right. Well, I mean, that was just so beautiful. And what a lovely.
I have just a question for Yvette. I just am wondering if AARP, and we can take this offline also, is doing anything in particular to address health inequities.
Absolutely. We just had a forum yesterday on that.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a very dear friend and client who's now head of diversity inclusion at Northwell Health here in New York, but also a really renowned cardiologist who's been working on women's heart health for just about her entire career, and recently has, and this is for everybody to hear, a film. Please watch for it. It's called Ms. Diagnosed. I did a fundraiser for it last year, and it is all about health inequities for women, but most particularly women of color. She's brilliant. She's totally selfless person and has devoted her life to helping equalize treatment in health. And I just wondered if what AARP was doing in that regard.
We're doing so much. We just had a health equity forum yesterday. That was the one I was mentioning. And so Dara and everyone here, I put my contact information, my cell phone and my email there. I'm open to talk to anyone. Dara, if you would
Great.
like a connection,
I would.
that's what we do every day.
Wonderful, because and you'll love her. She's brilliant.
Okay.
So,
I'm
okay.
happy to connect her with the right team, but we have a whole team who just focuses on health and equity.
That's wonderful.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Dara.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for allowing me to help get this conversation flowing. Really enjoyed it and just wanted to hand things over to Meg to help wrap us up.
Well, first of all, thanks, Ariel. I really appreciate it. First of all, Yvette and Ariel, thank you for such a dynamic and necessary conversation. You obviously inspired a lot of great sharing, and that's always one of the key elements to Quorum. So we so appreciate all that you had to offer. So thanks for kicking us off this year, this crazy year, this way. I really appreciate it. You know, Ariel, you did such a beautiful job of a bit of a call to action to everybody. One of the things that came to mind for me too is we all have such substantial voices in our own organizations. And I want to remind you that your voices matter so much more today than they've ever mattered before in terms of what you think your organization needs to stand for and do. And so I would put it out there that raise your voice as well, because the impact of a company or a corporation in terms of just numbers, size, dollars, can be quite extraordinary. And we've been really blessed. I'll just speak about Paul Hastings with a lot of collective action internally that's led to a lot of great outcomes where we've participated in ways we've never done before. So I would just also remember to remind everyone you've got those avenues, use them because they really matter. I love the notion of the challenging ourselves. What's the one thing that we want to do, take action around to participate and show up in a new way this year in 2021. I think it's so important. And certainly over the holiday period, I'm sure everyone, it's such a natural time for reflection. So I'm sure everyone did a bit of that. I certainly did. Yvette, I love the notion of health, wealth, and self because they so beautifully pulled together. So what a great notion of what you're focused on. At Quorum, we ended up with 3 ideas for the year too, and I thought I would mention them. And hopefully they hold together as brilliantly as Yvette's notion of health, wealth, and self, which I'm very inspired by. And what we've been focusing on is sustain, rise, and thrive. And it's really, how do we think about that for ourselves? How do we think about that as it relates to the organizations that we work within, and also in the communities that we reside? And so, how do we participate, show up, be catalytic, and think about that for the year, because that's really what the beauty of Quorum and the power of this community. So I'd like to inspire everyone to think about that framing as well. We have some really exciting programming coming up. Diane just put out a newsletter, gosh, Diane, probably yesterday, she's got it pulled up here. We have the next session in January is on the 27th with Najwa Atiga. She's just fantastic, amazing force of nature, woman leader in the Middle East, and just a fascinating individual. So it's a not to miss. If you could make it, please do. She's just fantastic. And then our beloved Dana Galen, who's one of our board members and has run some fantastic sessions for Quorum over the years, is going to do an interactive session for all of us to just sort of have us spend a minute together with each other, framing up our year and how we're thinking about things in our leadership and what does that look like. And then we have Jay Newton Small in February, who's who's an amazing journalist and done some incredible work, but her big beat is the political scene. So obviously, given everything that's going on in our world, I think she'll have some interesting observations about uh, um, you know, what she's seeing and hearing and thinking about as it relates to women and the political scene. So those are some of the events coming up. I also want to mention that Quorum is going to do a virtual How program this year, which is our big event that's going to happen in June, and we'll be sending out information about that soon. So keep an eye out for that, because we would love to have you all participate. And so we'll be including you, looking for ideas from you as well in terms of what you want to see happen during our forum. It'll be a little bit more robust programming in a shorter period of time altogether. So we'll be explaining that to you shortly, and very excited to have you participate. So with that, thank you all. Yvette, Ariel, thank you immensely for kicking us off in this year. It was such an amazing conversation. Thanks for all the rest of you for all your inspiring sharing. And I don't know, let's make 2021 a year to remember. That's kind of what I'm focused on. How about that? Nice to see you all. Be well. Take care of yourselves.